Hi, friends. We're happy to see you back on the Psychedelic Art Exchange YouTube channel. We hope that you're enjoying your summer, because we definitely are. And today we're going to look at some rare selections in our August Collectors Showcase auction. We've got a lot of our personal favorite bands and artists represented here and a lot of first time auction appearances. So let's get started.
Yes, like Katie said, we're on summer hours here, having
Mm.
lots of fun, going to concerts, seeing ball games, all the summer stuff. But we'll get back to our regular schedule in a couple weeks. But
We never really outgrew summer vacation.
no, I can't get over it myself, really. But there are just several pieces in the sale that we couldn't avoid talking about because they're super fun or important, rare, all the things that we collect for. And the first subject is one of my favorites, the Allman Brothers Band. This is the band that changed my relationship to music. It was one of those moments. A friend put on the Fillmore East record, and I'd never heard anything like that,
Hmm.
and I had to get more of it. They are probably the one band that I saw, almost as much as the Dead. I would go to the Beacon shows every year, and it was still such a wonderful thing. And the way that the repertoire, I mean, that the band grew with Derek Trucks and and Warren was just right up my alley. But anyhow, we're going back many years before that to 1971, which was the high point and the low point for the band. In March, they recorded the Fillmore album, which I just spoke about, and it was released, I think, just several weeks before this concert. And then by October, Duane Allman would no longer be on this planet. And they were touring hard. They got arrested and somewhere along the way in the South. I don't think that, it was either Mississippi or Alabama. And they were hard touring, hard drugging band. They were,
Hmm.
unlike the Dead, they were not into psychedelics. In fact, uh, you know, Bear tried to dose the almonds and they were really prepared. And Butch Trucks tried to keep his own. There's a story where he tried to keep his own beer to the side so that he wouldn't get dosed. And Osley hit it with a squirt gun. That's one of those. And Greg kind of had this, he was not, he wasn't fond of the Dead, or at least in his memoir, he wasn't. He was, yeah, Jerry called him a narc or something, and he never got over that. But Duane did play with the Dead a couple times, and they weren't a jam band. They eschewed that notion or that
Hmm.
title. They were a jazz band, jazz rock, southern blues, all of an
Rock and
amalgamation
roll.
of all.
Yeah.
They really hit it. And early Allman Brothers posters are not easy to find. They hadn't really hit it yet. Many of them are similar to this. It must have been put out by their promotion group or whatever. But this one hasn't come up that we've noticed. We've never sold it before. It's kind of plain Jane, but it's the Allman Brothers in 71 with the stock photo and like a letterpress look to it. This is in immaculate shape.
Hmm.
We've sold Allman Brothers posters for a lot of money here. And this is one that dates back. It has all of it. It's something you ought to look at, being a fan of this, you know, this,
Yeah. I mean,
oh,
obviously the Almond Brothers are very important to me. And I was supposed to, the one time I was supposed to see Greg, he got sick like
that's right.
days before, and I
Peach
never
Fest.
got to
It was,
see him.
I
Yeah.
was all excited for
I
Katie
know.
to see that, but it never did happen. There's another item in the sale that is kind of cool. It's this paper from this 1970 festival that the Almonds played at, and it's very cool. And I don't want to open it up because it's kind of
Yeah.
fragile, but this is a heavy item. I've never seen anything like it,
That's
and
really cool. I didn't know anything about this event before we, listed this program. But it was in North Carolina, and it was the year after Woodstock, and whoever the guy that put it on because his kids wanted to go to Woodstock, but they were too young. And so he was like, well, let's make our own. And it was headlined by the Almonds. Very unique and cool. And not a thing like it was apparently a huge special event, but I've never heard about it. And there's not a lot of information about it.
It's really odd that this one wasn't reported on more. There's not a lot of information about it. There were a lot of festivals going on, 69 and 70, Atlanta Pop, Texas Pop. There was even a Laurel Pop festival here. And by the way, if anybody has a Globe poster from that, that's one that we're looking for, the Laurel Pop Festival. Anyhow, another day, another topic. But the Allman Brothers stuff is super scarce from the Duane era and doesn't come up often. So this is the horse to put your money on.
Yes.
And then Jimi in 68 in Seattle, in his hometown. This is, we've sold the handbill a bunch, but this is the poster. And Jimi posters are everything. They're really the top of the pyramid, in my opinion. I mean, there's Beatles and Stones, of course, which is even another story beyond that. But we don't get many Jimi posters in, and we have to talk about them, especially ones that don't exist in any kind of quantity. The Fillmore pieces exist. You can get them. This, not so much.
People hold on to them,
Yeah. And he went and visited his hometown in 68, which still has references to Hendrix. Katie, you live in Seattle. And
I do. Yeah. We have a Hendrix statue. You can go see where he's buried.
Have you been?
No, I know that's super embarrassing, but I haven't been.
All right, we'll have to go. But that Mopop, the Woodstock guitars there, that gave me chills. I mean, there's all these Hendrix artifacts. That's worth seeing. And interestingly enough, there's a lot of Nirvana stuff there. It's a very cool museum. And Muddy Waters guitars there. I think Hank Williams guitar.
They have some that go in and out. I don't know which ones are on permanent display, but it is so worth checking out if you are ever in Seattle. It's funny. I was walking by an Army Navy surplus store the other day, and the mannequin in the window was wearing a Jimi Hendrix shirt, and I was like, interesting.
It's a cool town, good food, and that museum is worth seeing. And I think I've been there a couple times. They have Captain Kirk's chair. That's
all right.
Anyhow, moving on. And speaking of the Pacific Northwest, here we have a heavy from another era. This is kind of a famous image, and it's a cool piece. It comes up not too often, and this is a really high quality copy of this poster.
Yeah, this is cool. This is kind of my wheelhouse, So this was a 2-night Pacific Northwest run that was headlined by Sonic Youth. They had just put their album Goo out, which this is the image from that record. And that was their first major label release. They had already kind of broken through, but this is a really important Sonic Youth album. And they were with Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots, who were just listed as STP on the poster. But Nirvana and Sonic Youth had a really special friendship, and supposedly Sonic Youth is responsible for getting Nirvana signed to a major label, which they released Nevermind on the next year. So this is an early Nirvana poster, a very cool Sonic Youth poster, and it's Seattle and Portland.
Yeah, I mean, one of my regrets is that I never saw Nirvana. I think they played it at UMBC, a small college here. I did see
Sonic Youth.
I did see Sonic Youth. They opened for Neil Young. Sonic Youth and Social Distortion, and Neil and Crazy Horse were louder and nastier than both of them. That was a really fun night. That was 91. They recorded the the Weld part of Weld there. Hot
Cool.
tour. So
I bet you didn't really like Sonic Youth, did you?
yeah, I mean, I kind of did. I mean, it was so
Oh,
loud and
cool.
fun. I had such a great time that night. I'll never forget that show. That's one of those top 10 shows. The Horse were just off the hook. And anyhow, and so moving from this to influences for that whole Pacific Northwest thing that happened
Well,
not so
the
long.
Sonics are from Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, really?
So, yes. So that's the next city over, south of Seattle. And yeah, they're from there. And they formed in like 1960, which is crazy because they're a punk band. I mean, they're one of those bands that's like, punk before punk. But they were very influential on Nirvana, on, a lot of like, the White Stripes, a lot of those bands that came way later. They did a lot of like weird recording techniques. And that was kind of what people liked about them. Like they recorded on like 2 tracks with like 1 microphone, and it sounded very ugly and very cool. And it was like by 1960s standards, aggressive music.
Was that garagey kind of Nuggets sound. I don't know. It's one of their tracks on Nuggets. I can't remember. It very possibly would. It fits right in with that. I'll have to ask
Yeah.
Lenny. But
And I mean, they were around forever too. Like they just kept playing.
Yeah, they have had several reincarnations, I believe, along the way.
They have, yes.
But anyhow, yeah, this is the roots of the grunge scene. So there you have
Very
it.
cool. Yeah, we don't sell Sonic stuff like ever. So
well, there's not much of it, especially from this, and this one's really authentic and wonderful and lovely. And anyhow, into more familiar territory. But again, a super rare piece. We've sold this once before, and that's how this piece came to us. Somebody had seen the result, and they came to us with this poster. This one's not quite in as nice shape, but it's pretty much all there. It does have damage and paper loss, but it's mostly around the edges. It is Hooterall, which was Jerry Garcia and Howard Wales, which was a brief sidestep that Jerry took with this organ player, keyboard player that used to play every week at the Matrix, and they struck up a friendship, and they put out this lovely album called Hooterall in '71 with an amazing album cover too by Matty Clarwine. If you don't know him, he did the cover for Bitches Brew and Santana Abraxas, but that's beside the point. This was like a small Northeast tour in the middle of winter in Syracuse. It must have been awful, but I know somebody that was at the show and they said it was great. It was unheard of. It was brilliant. And these posters are not available. Really, this is, I don't know how many have sold. I know that we've sold 2 by just sheer, connection to the dead poster scene.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked a little more in depth about this before, which I'll link the video. But this is a cool poster. It's very, very, the colors are really nice. It looks good.
It was probably, a college project. I don't know anything. I haven't looked into the art and how it all came together, but I can tell you that there's not much that says Hooterall on it as far as posters go. So if you're interested in filling that gap in your Grateful Dead collection, I would put here.
We might not get so lucky again.
I do not believe so. It wasn't even an event. Nobody would have thought to save the poster. But fortunately, somebody did. And here we have one of the great chapters in Grateful Dead lore, the Festival Express, the Transcontinental Pop Festival through Canada on a train that was made famous in a documentary in like 2003. It was also the inspiration for the Grateful Dead song "Might as Well," which
I was going to say, I heard there's a song about it.
Great closer and opener. I mean, I didn't hear it that many times, but always loved that. But this is the poster from Montreal. It's in French, which is, if you're if you don't have this poster, it's a really good one to start with. B, if you're a completist, this is the hole in the collection. There's a
Hmm.
Toronto and Calgary, and is there? I can't recall. I think there's one. I think there's four of these, but this is the only one in French.
Yeah.
So this was, yeah, yeah. If you've seen the film, it looks like they were having so much fun. And yeah, there's a scene they ran out of booze and they completely bought out a liquor store that was along the way. And then there's that scene with Janice and Danko, and they're just wasted and singing, and it's so amazing. It's one of those time machine moments. Although I think Big Steve said that it didn't smell so good after a while because there weren't showers on the train, and it got a little bit ugly. But
I can only imagine.
a bunch of dirty hippies, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but it's the
They
band.
continue to do that.
Yes, yeah. On a train. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah, those are the highlights of our collector's showcase sale, and I guess we'll see you again in a couple weeks or come after Labor Day or whatever, depending on if there's any exciting developments here. So
yeah. And really, like, the whole auction is highlights. That's why it's the collector's showcase auction. But we don't want to sit here for hours and hours and
yes, we
go through all of that.
but nobody wants to watch us for hours and hours. So.
Oh yeah, well, we don't want to watch ourselves for hours and hours. But thank you so much for tuning in. This auction is going to close on Monday, August 3rd, the day before your birthday, at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, do it for your birthday. And yeah, we'll see you back real soon. Thank you for joining us.
See you guys.
Bye.